Hey you guys, hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Am I picking up the audio? Let me double check. Hey everyone, welcome back. My mic was way over there, so let me move it a little bit closer so you guys can hear me. Hey everyone, happy, what's today, Wednesday maybe? I think so. I hope everybody's having a happy, great Wednesday. We're going to talk about Paul from 90 Day Fiance today because last week he did an interview with Dominic Nati of the Dominic Nati Show, and you guys, I've watched it like 3 times because I'm just happy. What's today, Wednesday? The most unprofessional YouTuber you guys will ever come across. Um, no matter how much I try to get all my things in order, it's just wackadoodle. Anyways, hey everyone, hey. So, Paul from 90 Day Fiance, you guys know he always has a lot going on. Him and his wife, they're not divorced. So, I'm not going to say ex wife, but they're always separated. There's always a lot going on with Paul and Karine, and unfortunately, they're 2 children now. So, earlier this month, news broke that Paul was on the run with his son, that his son, Pierre, was missing, and that he had his son. After news broke, Paul spoke to a few different bloggers and YouTubers, giving them different stories. So, public service announcement. It's just because Paul is stating something to anyone. We're going to take it with a grain of salt. This is just what he says, and I'm just kind of relaying the information to y'all. I have things that he has stated that I kind of believe, and then things that he states that I'm just like, that makes absolutely no sense. So when it comes to Paul, you know, kind of take what you want from it. But at the time, he's the only one speaking up about the family, about the kids. So it is what it is. But he did this interview with Dominic last week, and he talks about the latest developments as far as the custody with his kids, as well as Karine's living situation. And you guys, and y'all, Karine apparently has made claims that she is the victim of human trafficking. So it's wild. It's wild. We're going to go ahead. We're going to get into it. So, all right. When he was brought on the Dominic Nati Show, Dominic had some really good questions for him. He asked Paul how everything was going with the custody situation as far as the kids. And Paul said that right now everything is still up to the court. But hopefully everything will be adjudicated this month and they can get everything figured out, everything situated. When asked if the kids were still in foster care, he said that he hasn't spoken to his family yet. So it's a possibility that his family has the kids, his family meaning his mom. So according to Paul, what he said on the Dominic Nati Show is that he believes his mom is in fact going to be able to get custody of the 2 children, little Ethan and little Pierre. And when asked, you know, if they're still in foster care, he says, well, I haven't spoken to my mom, so I guess it's possible that they could be with my mom. They're not divorced, Stephanie, but they're not together per se. They've had a really crazy relationship. Now, Dominic asked him when's the last time he saw the kids, and he said the last time he saw Pierre was when he returned with him after going on this long work trip. Ironically enough, this was right after the judge deemed him and Karine unfit. Not only him and Karine, but their parents as well. So a judge deemed Paul, Karine, and both of their parents unfit and ordered that the kids be placed in foster care. And that's when Paul went on the run with Pierre. So he says the last time he saw Pierre was when he brought Pierre back and gave him to his mom. And before that, the last time he saw Ethan was before he left to go on that work trip several weeks before that. So he says he hasn't seen Ethan since early June, and he hasn't seen Pierre since early July. He explained, though, he said the deal was he was going off on a work trip, and he was bringing Ethan and Pierre to his mom's house for her to keep them while he was going on the work trip. But because the 3-year-old Pierre has separation anxiety issues, he was having a little bit of a hard time knowing that his dad was about to leave on a work trip. He got upset, so Paul actually called his boss and asked if he could bring Pierre with him, and the boss said, yeah, sure, bring him, we'll figure it out. And he says they did, that he didn't get as much work done had he not brought, you know, the boy, but he was able to bring him. Then Dominic Nati asked Paul if he thought Ethan was in fact Paul's, because there's been some rumors out there put out by Paul, that Ethan may not be his child. And we've never really gotten, as far as I know, there's never been any confirmation that he is or he isn't. It's just been things that Paul has stated, that Karine was cheating on him and that he didn't know if he was Paul. He didn't know if he was Ethan's dad. So Dominic asked him, "Do you think Ethan is yours?" And this is the way that Paul answered it. He says, I think he is. We had some tests done in Brazil, and those tests lean towards him being my son. Now, Dominic Nati pressed him on this because that we don't really know what he means by that. Like, you had a DNA test. What do you mean it leans towards? Usually a DNA test will say like 99.9%. You know what I'm saying? It's not leaning. It's like 99.9%. I took a Zofran before I got on because I was feeling a little bit nauseous, and it hasn't melted completely. So anyways, that's what he said. He said that they had some tests done in Brazil, and the test was leaning towards Ethan being his. So Dominic's like, so you had a DNA test? Like, what kind of test did you have? And was it saying it's a higher probability that he's yours, but it's not 99%? Like, what do you mean? And he said, yes, what I'm saying is we had some tests done, and essentially it said that he's mine. And he said, I believe that he's mine as well. Like, I knew Perry. There's no question about him. He's mine. And yes, I do believe that Ethan is mine as well. So Dominic asked why the kids were in foster care. Like, what took place to get us to this point? Now, Paul said that he had had the kids since December of last year, that he had had them full time because Karine was kind of didn't have a stable place to live. Like, she moved in with someone who she thought was a friend. But he had the kids since December. He says in January he was awarded custody of the kids, but I actually don't remember. I would have to go back to double check if he did in fact get custody of the kids, because there will be documentation to prove that. And off the top of my head, I don't remember if he was, but he says in January he was awarded full custody of the kids. Karine was living with a friend of hers, and she was allowed visitation. That Karine had like a caseworker essentially that would see to it that Karine got her visitation. And sometimes the caseworker was there during Karine's visitation. But Karine got kicked out of the house that she was living in. So she didn't really have a stable place to live. And Paul said that she went like 6 weeks without seeing the kids. The kids wanted to see her. She wanted to see the kids. So they broke like a court order of Karine seeing the kids in a stable environment. It being, I guess, that that person that would come to the visitation at times, I guess she had to be notified or something. But either way, Paul set up a visitation without going through the proper channels, apparently. This is according to Paul, you guys. So he set up a visitation. He said, I felt bad for the kids. They missed their mom. She missed them. So I set up a visitation. And that essentially got them in trouble because they weren't supposed to do that. Also, there were restraining orders in place as well. So, yeah, that's another reason why they were not supposed to be around each other. There were restraining orders in place. So, he made the arrangements, let the kids see Karine. Now, I don't believe that's the case at all. From when I first heard about this situation, I heard that CPS was investigating the family due to all the video footage that we have dating back to like 2010, even footage of them on the show of their relationship being so like hostile, the fighting. They've uploaded videos. Each of them have uploaded videos of the other one being like either verbally abusive, sometimes physically abusive. There was a video uploaded of Karine, what appears to be throwing Ethan into the front seat of the car. There's also videos of her like showing little Pierre in the closet crying, and she's like, this is what his dad does to him. So that's what I was actually told, is that's the reason CPS started investigating them. because of all the footage online, and they were reported to CPS. Paul has a little bit of a different story, but that's okay. Paul usually has a different story. Now, Dominic asked Paul where Karine is now, how is she doing now, like what the deal is. And he goes, oh, Karine's doing good. You guys, Karine's doing good because she's actually living off the government. She is on and I'm not shaming anyone on a government assistance program. I know people on them. When I was a young single mother, I got like food stamps for a bit when I had my 2 kids and I was working by myself and their dads didn't help. I'm all for it. Get it if you can. If you deserve it, do your thing. You know what I'm saying? But he says she is in a government program where she's got a free home. And he says that this house is, he didn't say 3 stories, but he says there's 3 floors to it. He says, oh, she's got this really nice house. There's 3 floors to it. I think he even said stainless steel appliances, or he may have been saying that in reference to her house in Brazil that she bought off her OnlyFans money. So he said, she's in a program. It is federally funded program where she's got a home, 3 stories. The bills are paid. He said that they are buying her a car and they're going to pay the insurance. This is all so she can get up on her feet. And he said, with the way things are going, if she stays in this program and she gets up on her feet in 6 to 8 months, the courts say that she could possibly get custody of the kids back. He said, essentially, this is just to get her in a place where she's, not having to stress about the bills. Because if she's working, how's she going to take care of the kids? If she don't have a place, how is she going to have a place for the kids? And I'm like, plenty of moms, like single moms, work to have a house. You know what I'm saying? And they have kids. Especially with Karine, like she does have Paul. Paul doesn't shy away from taking care of the kids. So it's not like she doesn't have any help. But he says this basically is to get her to a point where she is set up so she can get the kids back. The courts told them in 6 to 8 months she should be able to get custody of the kids. Must be nice, right? Debbie, that's what I'm saying too. Like I said, when it comes to Paul, we really have to take what he says with a grain of salt because we really just don't know how much truth there is to this. You know what I'm saying? Now, he asked about their relationship. He says, Karine was unfaithful to you, right? Like she cheated on you a lot. And he's like, yeah, she cheated on me a lot. It was pretty much that way from day one. Like she always was talking to someone else. That's just the way that it was. And then Paul says that Karine would cheat on him with different guys. And then when those guys would find out that she was messing with someone else, they would always call him. He would say, yeah, the boyfriends would call me when they found out that they weren't the only boyfriend. They would call me and tell me, oh my gosh, she's cheating on me. And I would think to myself, hello, I'm married to her. So she's cheating on me with you and you didn't have a problem with it. Now that she's cheating on you with the next guy, you have an issue with it. And Dominic was like, wait, you mean to tell me the boyfriends were calling you to complain about the fact that she was cheating on them? And he was like, yeah, they were calling me complaining. And Dominic was like, what was the point of that? And he was like, I don't know, I guess maybe they wanted sympathy or something, some type of companionship because we were both like messed over by the same woman. But he was like, yeah, I really didn't feel any pity for him. Dominic asked about the bite on the arm because did you guys see the video that Karine put up a video of her arm and there was a little bite mark on it? And she was like, this isn't love, this is abuse. And she basically, hey, Miss Chronic, I like your name. She was like, this isn't love. And she basically insinuated that Paul had bit her. So Dominic asked, like, what happened with the bite? Why did you bite her? And this is what he said. He said, well, we were in the vehicle driving. Karine got mad and she grabbed the steering wheel with both of her arms. I was trying to get her arms off the steering wheel and she was pushing the steering wheel to where the car was going into oncoming traffic. He was like, I didn't want to go into oncoming traffic that day. So yes, I bit her arm. I can kind of believe that story. I don't know. I can kind of believe, if I'm driving and somebody pushes their hands on the wheel and they're pushing me off the road into oncoming traffic, I would do whatever as well. I would bite, I would hit, try to pull over if possible. Dominic did ask him why didn't he just like slam on the brakes. And Paul, you guys, I have to give to Paul. Like sometimes God bless Paul. Sometimes he's a little, but sometimes he's pretty smart. Like, he was like, well, I didn't want to be rear-ended. And I'm like, okay, there you go, of course. Dominic Nati didn't even think, well, you can't slam on your brakes because you got people behind you 9 times out of 10 and you might be rear-ended. But Paul was like, I didn't want to get hit in the back, so he said, no, I didn't slam on the brakes. My thought was, just bite her. So he bit her, you guys. He bit this woman because she was pushing the steering wheel to push them into the car into oncoming traffic. Dominic then asked about the allegations that Karine made against Paul, that Paul was trying to have her killed or kill her. And Paul did say yes, those were allegations out there that Karine put against him, that he was trying to kill her. But Paul has lodged those same allegations against Karine. There are videos of Paul talking to Karine saying, there's a video of Paul saying, you hired those men to kill me, or those men were going to kill me, or something like that. And Karine's like, those friends good for me, not good for you. And he's like, yeah, darn right they're not good for me. They were going to kill me. And she's like, good for me, not good for you. And I'm like, what? Good for you, not good for me? And they were going to, but she never denies it. She never said, what? My friends weren't going to kill you. What are you talking about? But maybe it was like the language barrier. She just really didn't understand what he was saying. But either way, she just did not deny the fact that her friends possibly were going to kill Paul. So anyways, then they bring up OnlyFans because they had an OnlyFans for a bit, but they don't anymore. And Dominic asked, how much money did she make on OnlyFans? And he said, you guys, sign me up. She made $200,000 on OnlyFans in 12 months. This Karine made $200,000 on OnlyFans in 12 months. What? I was like mind blown. So Dominic is like, well, where's the money? Why is she living in a government funded home and the government taking care of her if she made $200,000 in 12 months? And so he says, well, she blew through the money. He said that she bought a house in Brazil, top of the line house, basically. He said, yes. He said stainless steel appliances, really nice house. They went to a Disney World resort for a month. So he, Karine, the kids, he said, we stayed at the Disney World resort for a month. He said, you know how much that cost to stay there for a month? But we did. He said that they had Fashion Nova packages coming to their house every day, that she spent hundreds of dollars on Fashion Nova packages. He also says there was a trip to Brazil, Disney World, and then a trip to Rio. So essentially, the money was blown through. And then he said that she promised that they would pay his car off. He says he has like $30,000 left on the car, and she promised they would pay the car off, but they actually never paid the car off. Instead, the money was just blown on Fashion Nova trips and stuff such as that. Then Dominic asked Paul, does OnlyFans lead to prostitution? Like, can it? Like if you are doing OnlyFans, are you getting DMs for other offers? Like, hey, can we meet up and do XYZ and I'll pay you $100? Blah, 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 blah. And he asked, did anyone ever contact Karine offering her money for a sexual act? And he said, to my knowledge, anyone that Karine slept with was because she wanted to. There was no financial exchange to his knowledge. He says, I have no evidence to her, performing any sexual acts for money. And he says, and I don't want to think about it. He says, essentially, it is her body. So whatever she decides to do, it's her body. And his only rule is do not bring anyone around the kids. If she's going to mess around, the kids are not to be around anyone that she's messing with, which, wow, okay. Continuing on this talk about OnlyFans. He says the most requests that they got, you guys, picture it. I don't think I don't know. According to him, she's not sponsored by Fashion Nova. According to him, she was literally buying these packages because he says she spent hundreds of dollars on Fashion Nova. So he said, he said the biggest request they got, you guys, was the biggest request that they got on OnlyFans when people would reach out to them would be for Karine to put on a fake a strap on, for Karine to put on a strap on and get him from behind. I'm so sorry. Please don't listen to this in front of your kids. Y'all know I usually try to keep it like PG. I should have put out a trigger warning on this one, you guys, away from the kids. So he said the most request that they got on OnlyFans is for Karine to put that, put the strap on and hit it from the back. Hit Paul from the back. Could you guys hear that? Ah! I can't. And Paul said he said Karine wasn't against that. And I'm like, sure she wasn't. Karine was all for bending you over, Paul. Karine wanted Paul bent over. He says that was the biggest request that they got, is her back there behind him with the little. And he said that Karine was for it. He said she was for it, but I wasn't completely for it. He says I wasn't completely on board with it, so I just kind of left that one alone. He also says that they got a lot of requests for three-ways. Different men would contact them and be like, hey, can we do a three-way, like me, you, and your husband? Also, Karine was for that one. She wasn't against that one, and he said that was something that he wasn't necessarily. I feel like Paul didn't want to come out and say, because he said, we got offers for three-ways, and Karine was okay with it, but I wasn't completely on board. And Dominic asked him, well, like, are you bisexual? And he goes, well, I don't want to answer. He's like, no, I don't want to answer. No, I just don't want to answer that. I mean, he said no. He's like, no, I don't want to. No, I just don't want to answer that. So I feel like his deal is maybe he's not. Maybe he's not bisexual, but he's scared if he says, no, I'm not bisexual, that he might get some hate. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? Are you against the LGBTQ community? Or maybe, I could be so wrong, and he could be bisexual, and he's just scared to come out and say it, which, a lot of people are. So, whatever makes him happy, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, no wonder they're not together, which Paul literally said that Karine has had other men from day one. It's her body, as long as she's not bringing the kids around. He's not fighting with her about it. He just don't want random people around his kids. But he says, when Dominic asked, because Dominic said, so the three ways is that men, or is that with two women? And Paul said, oh, no, if it was two women, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. He was like, if it was two women, I'd be good. He said, but no, it's not two women. It's, Karine and another man. So I just left that one alone. And then he says, are you bisexual? And he says, no, I won't get into that. I mean, no, I just don't want to. No, I'm not going to talk about that. And then Dominic Nati says, have you ever experienced with a guy? Have you ever had any experience with a guy? And Paul says, I don't know. Paul says, well, there was some weird things that happened a long time ago in my youth. I'm just going to leave that alone. And I don't know what he's saying there. I don't know if he's talking about he had experimented in his youth, and it was weird, or if it was like some sort of sexual assault. Because a lot of people deal with that. Like a lot of young boys, a lot of young girls, they do deal with sexual assault in their youth, and it just it leaves a lot of people confused. You know what I'm saying? Kids, even as adults, like you can still be confused about like how that happened, why it happened. So it could be something like that he's talking about. I don't know. Then you guys, trigger warning again. This is a huge trigger warning. Okay. So at some point, Karine had a miscarriage, right? And they kept the baby, in the refrigerator. So Dominic asked him, is the miscarried baby still in the refrigerator? And he said, no, unfortunately, Karine's mom threw the baby away. And Dominic's like, what? How did that happen? And he says, well, the miscarried baby had been in the refrigerator for almost 3 years. And Dominic asked, like, why 3 years? Like, why? Like, what was the plans? And he said, well, me and Karine had planned on burying the miscarried baby, but we never got back to Brazil and was able to do that. Like, we were never able to get back there and do what needed to be done to give the baby a proper burial. So it was just in the refrigerator for 3 years. And they said, Dominic said, well, you know, why would Karine's mom throw the baby away? And he said, well, it was an accident. He says the unborn baby was a casualty of the refrigerator getting cleaned out. The unborn baby was a casualty of the refrigerator being cleaned out, which tells me that refrigerator hasn't been cleaned out in a good 3 years. You don't typically bury miscarriages, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. I actually, in my opinion, I think you should. Because the way they disregard, you know, miscarriages is really it's not nice for me. Maybe the freezer would have been a better option. Yeah, I don't know. But then he says, this is what he says. He says, the unborn baby was a casualty of the refrigerator getting cleaned out. And then he says, things happen. Things happen. Just things happen, you know? And Dominic kind of is like, yeah, well, things happen. And that is the end of the interview, you guys. I've linked it in the description box below so you can go watch the whole interview just to kind of hear them talking and hear the way Paul responds to some of these questions. But either way, it was a wild interview. The allegations that she's been human trafficked. Did I say that? So the way that Karine, because Dominic asked, how is Karine getting free housing and a free car and her bills paid? And he said, well, she went to the police and said that she was a victim of human trafficking. And there's this program that if you were in the United States and you were human trafficked, that they set you up like this. And that's what she did. Apparently she did not go alone. She went with a friend of hers that could speak English. And he said they came up with this huge story of, hey, go in, say you were human trafficked and that's why you're here, and they'll set you up. So that's what she did. And Dominic's like, wait, so who is she the victim of? Like, who human trafficked her? Is she saying you did, Paul? And he never said, well, yes, she's saying that I did. And he says, I can't really get into that, but I'll tell you this. We had cameras up our butt 24/7 for this amount of time. There is no way I could have human trafficked her. There's plenty of evidence basically to support that she was here on her own free will. You know, so while he doesn't say that she accused him, it sounds like she accused him. That the reason she's here is because he brought her over here to human traffic her, and now she's getting all this free stuff for that reason. She's got a free house. This is according to Paul. She got a free house. Her bills are paid. She's going to get a free car. Oh, and Paul said that she contacted him and said, I have no furniture. So he says he brought all his furniture over to the house, put it in the house, and then she was like, they're going to buy me new furniture, but it was going to take like 2 weeks, and I just didn't want to wait that long for furniture. Now, this is according to Paul, so I don't know, you guys. Both of them, Carly. It's hard to tell which one's worse. You know what I'm saying? It's just, so basically denying a real trafficking victim resources. Oh, wow. Yes. Yeah. But that's what he said, that she now claims she is the victim of human trafficking. She's getting all this free stuff from the government. And they have plenty of evidence that she was not, in my opinion, the victim of human trafficking. Yeah, babe. Oh, I'm sorry. Where y'all going? Where y'all going?
Some cheese dip for you.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna grab a couple of groceries while I'm there. So,
you got the card?
what? No.
I don't think you do. I had it this morning.
get a debit card.
Yeah, you do gotta get a debit card.
Well, you know, get tired of going to the store checking out and then realizing I ain't got a
No,
card.
no, that's embarrassing. So yes, you know, I had a miscarriage, okay, and I would say it's inhumane. I absolutely think it's inhumane that the hospital, you come in and they tell you, yeah, the baby that you thought you were having, you're not having. There's no heartbeat, not there. Take this pill and go home. They tell you that it's going to be like you're having they tell you it's going to be like you're having a heavy period. Go home, it's going to be like you're having a heavy period. In a few days, it'll lighten up. Take a few days rest. And it's much worse than that. Especially consider, you know, depending on how far along you are. Obviously, the further along you are, the worse it's going to be. You know, at some point, it is where you're too far along to where they don't send you home. But sometimes they have the dates wrong as well. Like, I definitely think I was further along than we thought because they sent me home and I was unable to go through that process at home. I had to go back to the hospital. Well, they did. So when I went, I showed up to the hospital before I started bleeding. I showed up when I was just in a lot of pain. And while waiting, they put me in a room in the back, and I have been waiting for hours in a room in the back. And I was laying in the bed, and I sat up. And when I sat up, just blood went everywhere. It was, I mean, down to my feet, you know. And we opened the door, called for the nurse, and there was a bathroom right across the hallway. And so I went, and literally, I was, blood was all over the floor, you know, because it was literally everywhere. And from that, so I had to change clothes. They gave me something to put, you know, and they said, well, we need to call for an ultrasound tech to come check. I waited for an ultrasound tech for like 4.5 hours. It was ridiculous. The whole time laying there, like knowing, okay, more than likely I just lost my baby, but I need some confirmation. They didn't have an ultrasound tech there, so they had to call one in and wait for one to get in. It was hours. And literally I almost bled to death, like 100% almost bled to death. I had to have blood. I actually had to have a blood transfusion because I almost bled to death. So when we went to the ultrasound, they confirmed that, you know, baby didn't have a heartbeat, and went back, and they're like, they gave me this medicine, take it, go home. And they basically said, it's like you're going to have a heavy period. It's like you're going to have a heavy period. Take a few days rest, blah, 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 blah. We were in the middle of moving at that time too. We had, we had 5 kids at the time. So I was pregnant with number 6. And we were in the middle of moving. So we go back home. When I get settled in and all the kids go to sleep, Sean gets the kids to sleep. He goes to our old house and this time it's like midnight, you know, to start bringing stuff back. And on his like second run to go get more stuff, I get up in the middle of the night and it's just like kind of TMI, but it's like gushing, you know. And I go to the toilet and it's stuck, you know, it's just stuck. You can't get it out because it was stuck there. So I called Sean to come home, kind of freaking out because I didn't know what to do because I couldn't get it out, you know. So he came home and he tried to get it out and he couldn't get it out, and it's in the middle of the night. So we had to wait till the next morning to call my doctor. She calls me to come into her office and she puts me up in the stirrups in her office and she tries to pull it. Can't get it. So she's like, yeah, you're going to have a DNC done because can't get it out. But they send you home. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is the biggest thing, is like they send you home. And it's just in the toilet. That was another thing, too, that I just didn't feel right about. Is just, you go and you sit on the toilet and you pass what you know is your baby, you know? Granted, it's not viable, you know what I'm saying? Honestly, Aspen, that's a really good question. I don't think 911 ever even, it just, I couldn't get it out. So I was just like, I went and laid back in bed and I was like, in the morning, I guess I'm just going to call the doctor, which is what I did. I called the doctor and she brought me in. And so when they realized that they couldn't get it out, she was like, you're going to have surgery. But they did blood work and realized that my blood count was super low. She was like, you cannot have the surgery until you get a blood transfusion. So go to the hospital, get a blood transfusion, and then we'll do your surgery tonight. So that's what I did. I went to the hospital. I think I got like 2 bags of blood, and then that night I had the surgery. But right, your baby is very, and then to flush it is like I almost feel like I'm betraying this baby that isn't here, but could have been here. You know what I'm saying? It's just really, um, don't know how to handle it. But yeah, so that's what happened with my story. But I couldn't think of putting it in the refrigerator either. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did think, like, could we bury it? Like, rather than just flushing, you know what I'm saying? So I could understand a burial. Putting it in the refrigerator for 3 years is a little much for me. That's a lot, especially because your food is in the refrigerator. I always feel like your food in the refrigerator, like all the food kind of like mingles together. The particles and aroma from the food all kind of mix. When you shut that door, everything kind of, the particles from your lunch meat can get on your milk carton. I don't know. So to have a miscarried baby in there for 3 years, and then the way it got thrown out was because the mom was cleaning the refrigerator out. So I guess they went 3 years without cleaning the refrigerator out. If I could go back now, I would have. There's a lot of things I would have did different back then. I'd never been through it. I'd never been through a miscarriage before. I didn't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I remember the first time like walking to the toilet and sitting, and then things coming out that I knew was like, oh, that's probably a part of my child right there, and then like being like, how do I flush this? This isn't okay, and like telling Sean they should not have sent me home to do this. This is not okay. Anyways, you guys, yes, it's really healthy to talk about this evening. I agree. I agree. I think talking about my trauma has helped me a lot. Like talking about my miscarriage, talking about my arrest. I've talked about my rape. Like it all helps me a lot. I don't really get too emotional with it anymore either. Like I think I don't know why. The main thing that I will get emotional for is sometimes when I talk about my miscarriage, I can't get emotional, but probably one of the main things that I get emotional for is talking about my nephew. But anyways, you guys, I wanted to come on here and give you a breakdown of what Paul said on his interview on the Dominic Natty show. I've linked it in the description box below. I'm going to come back in a little bit. I'm going to be doing at least 2 more lives. I'm also supposed to go live. I'm also supposed to go live with Molly Go Lightly later tonight. So if you guys are not following Molly Go Lightly and Justice for All, go check them out. They have been working nonstop on the Justice for Vaughn story, Marvon Jackson McCray. If you guys don't know that story, please check it out. I have like a 30-minute video that could catch you up as far as you would need to be to understand what's going on in that story. Molly has a lot of videos as well. So does Justin. So check them out. Like I said, I'm supposed to go on with her tonight, but I will probably do at least 2 more live videos on this channel. So you guys make sure you have subscribed to the channel. Make sure your notification bell is on and you have selected it to all. You have it set to all. That way, every time I go live or upload a new video, you are made aware. So I will see you guys in the next one. I don't know for sure yet what we're going to be covering. I thought about covering Ricky Martin again and kind of talking about that. If you guys are interested in me talking about Ricky Martin and the drama surrounding him, just let me know. But either way, we're going to come back probably within 30 minutes or so. So leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure you give this video a huge thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And so next time, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye, everyone.